Teresa Alvarado is the Chief of Local Impact for SPUR. And if you're not familiar with SPUR, you should be. It's a over 100-year-old, 110-year-old urban planning and policy organization. I didn't really understand before how the history of SPUR, but it's literally been around for almost ever around these parts. And their mission is to create an equitable, sustainable, and prosperous Bay Area region, which we can definitely sign on to as well. But Teresa's position as Chief of Local Impact is to lead a team of city directors in San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland, responsible for building alliances and partnerships at the local level that facilitate mutual support and amplify our collective impact. So as number of hats have worn in the past, Teresa was involved with, Valley Water when it was Santa Clara Valley Water, and led two departments, the Office of CEO Support and the Communications and Community Engagement team. There's that local impact again. And was executive director of the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, and was in government relations and philanthropy for PG&E. On the other side, she currently now serves as chair of the California Water Commission. We'll get into that in a second. And also on the boards of Parks California, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and the Archbishop Mitty High School Board of Regents. I had to mention that. And also was a Senate appointee to BCDC. And again, if you think that's an auto group, you are going to be disabused of that in just a few minutes. So with that, we give you Teresa Alvarado. And so actually, let's get into it as far as the California Water Commission. I guess you were recently named chair, and I'm betting people in the audience, if we gave them a pop quiz right now, would maybe not be able to describe exactly what the California Water Commission will do. So perhaps you can help them out.
I think you're right. Thank you for inviting me to your water party, Dennis. This has been fun. The California Water Commission, I think, is the best kept secret in water. It consists of 9 members appointed by the governor and confirmed by the state Senate. The commission is a public body which provides a forum for discussing water issues, advises the director of the Department of Water Resources on matters within their jurisdiction, and oversees the construction and operation of the state water project. But I think what really put us on the map is that we distribute the $2.7 billion in Proposition 1 funds for the public benefits of water storage projects. And with the governor's water resilience portfolio that was finalized in July, the commission does have a specific role to play as a convener and a public forum on the climate-related issues the state is seeking to prepare us, like for extreme droughts and floods, rising temperatures, declining fish populations, and over-reliance on groundwater, and the other challenges that we've heard about already today.
I see. And so is it specifically the storage components of Prop 1? You know, someday there may actually be more component, like I always talk about the pyramid there, and maybe reuse will have more money in a future proposition than storage. What do you think?
Well, just think about when this was passed, right? Proposition 1, which was the Water Storage Investment Program, it was passed in 2014 during the height of the 5-year drought. And so, of course, the focus was on funds for investments in water storage projects. And the California Water Commission is administering, like I said, excuse me, the WISIP is what we call it, the Water Storage Investment Program, the WISIP dollars that fund the public benefits associated with those storage projects. So the public benefits could include things such as flood control, ecosystem improvement, water quality improvement, emergency response, and recreation. And so in July of 2018, the commission made funding determinations for 8 projects that collectively would boost California's water storage capacity by 4.3 million acre feet. And the projects range from expanding existing reservoirs to boosting groundwater storage to building 21st century surface storage facilities. So the applicants are now in this process of completing the remaining Prop 1 requirements, including getting their final permits, environmental documents, contracts for the administration of the public benefits, and commitments for non-Prop 1 funding. And just one other timely bit of news. One of the applicants, the Temperance Flat Reservoir Authority, informed the commission a couple of months ago that they will not be able to meet the continuing eligibility requirements by the statutory deadline of January 1st, 2022, and they've withdrawn from the WISIP program. And so their withdrawal makes available over $171 million of funding, which the commission will be considering for reallocation at our next meeting on December 16th.
Aha. Well, that's great. And one other just specific question. I've always been fascinated with. I mean, obviously, the thing with water storage is the silting effect of over time in a number of areas. I mean, maybe not Hetch Hetchy, but is there within those funds? I mean, does dredging or kind of remediation of silting fall in that category?
You know, I wasn't on the commission in 2018, so I don't know specifically. I would imagine it does because some of the projects were expansions of existing projects. So I would think so.
And the other thing is, I'd wondered was also seismic, retrofitting. Is that within the purview of these funds?
Again, it's for the expansion of water storage. So if that was...
I know, I was like, what's the definition? Yeah. We will have, by the way, tomorrow, Chris Hakes talking about the Anderson Dam, speaking of seismic. And if anyone has not seen that video of, why you need a seismically strong Anderson Dam, they should go watch it. I'm sure it's still on the Valley Water website, and we'll see if we can link to it tomorrow as well. So anyway, I'm sorry?
It would also enable me not to have flood insurance on my home.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously multi-benefits. So I actually was curious about your time at the Santa Clara Valley Water District and what you would kind of say about that.
Yeah, it was really nice to hear my former colleague Hossein Ashkarab on the previous panel. We worked really closely on the opening of the Advanced Water Purification Center in North San Jose. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I did run 2 departments. I was a deputy administrative officer at the district. And the first office or department that I ran was the Office of CEO Support, where I led a team that focused on organizational performance and management audit, board member policy governance. And I was the management lead for our ISO 9001 quality and 14001 environmental registration. So that's clearly the analytical and engineering side of my brain. And then the second department was the communications and community engagement team, where I oversaw a group of professionals implementing a full range of communications and engagement strategies. And during my tenure, we employed a lot of innovative approaches that drove a dramatic increase in coverage about our work and helped us successfully achieve our water conservation goals. And what, it was a very crazy and intense time for all of us in the field during that drought, but many of us were, I think, acknowledged at the state level for our efforts to meet the conservation goals that the state and the governor had made. And the water district, Santa Clara Valley, we had international coverage of our operations, and I had the opportunity to present at World Water Week in Stockholm, Sweden in 2015, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, great. It's interesting too. One thing I've noticed as an amateur anthropologist, just with Valley Water, is that there's two things that I would say come to mind, and one is a universal, a very heartfelt concern for the watershed, which is great. I mean, people get weepy at Valley Water talking about the watershed. I mean, and as well they should. And it's actually part of the founding history. But then the other aspect is, as an organization, it's always been very apparent in terms of there's very much of a very conscious kind of process-driven operation. So I guess more so. I mean, it just more so than maybe it's more out in front than other organizations. So I guess we have you to thank for that. Well, a little bit about. I did want to get back just your educational history in terms of just even where you ended up where you did, just with as a woman of color, a bit of BS in environmental studies and masters in civil and environmental engineering, and obviously that puts you in relatively small groups as you go through, and this pathway, and then in terms of environmental a kind of approach. I just wondered if you want to comment on the path.
Yeah, sure. Well, my mother, who is from Southern Colorado, and her family's from Northern New Mexico, she has Native American ancestry, and she has a very strong environmental commitment that she instilled in me. And I remember an earlier major drought in California when I was a preteen, and I recall, being taught, forced to turn off the water when brushing my teeth, and our front yard lawn going brown to conserve water. And I think those experiences really changed my awareness of natural resources and the need for conservation. And, even though there were very few people of color in my environmental studies undergrad, of course, communities of color have long had strong environmental ethics and championed respect for the environment and elimination of hazardous materials and conditions that spawned the environmental justice movement. And in fact, other than my mom, I really have to credit an environmental justice pioneer for my academic path. In college, I attended a conference where I heard Carl Anthony speak. He's the former president of Earth Island Institute, and he's the co-founder and former executive director of its Urban Habitat Program, one of the first environmental justice organizations to address race and class issues. And I still have copies, several copies of their monthly newsletter. It was called Race, Poverty, and the Environment. And it was the nation's first environmental justice periodical. And it really inspired me to look at environmental and other issues through a broader, more holistic lens.
Very good. Yeah, Carl Anthony's a real pioneer. We have a bit of a lightning round with acronyms. And the first one is BCDC. Yes, the other one would be SPUR, because that's your day job. But first, BCDC.
So quickly, BCDC, the Bay Conservation Development Commission, probably much better known than the California Water Commission, at least here in the Bay Area. It's a state planning and regulatory agency with authority over filling and dredging in the Bay. They are responsible for sensitive areas of the Bay. They regulate new development within the first 100 feet of Bay shoreline. They have a responsibility to ensure public access to the Bay, and they are central to our Bay Area's adaptation planning for rising sea levels. And when I was on BCDC, which I left to go to the California Water Commission, I chaired their environmental justice and social equity Commissioner Working Group, and we developed a Bay Plan amendment to address environmental justice, which was approved last October. Not this last October, the previous October.
And now, any comments about? I mean, this next question might have an hour answer, but unfortunately, we don't have an hour. But the day job, just with SPUR, obviously, all the things you've talked about. The past is prologue, and I mean, it makes total sense in terms of environmental justice and taking that to a planning focus and having all these aspects. But well, and I know SPUR, actually, I think I had said something about SPUR and water, and then you sent me a link with all kinds of great articles or reports, you know, as well. So, I mean, it's obviously been a weighty issue. But anything you want to mention about SPUR in this context?
Yeah, just very quickly, I would just encourage people to go to our website, spur.org, spur.org. We have a very broad policy portfolio that includes transportation and housing and sustainability and resilience and economic justice and regional planning. And what I think is so great about SPUR is our mission is public policy research, education, and advocacy. But it's not just single-minded, really. It's looking at all of these issues in a multidisciplinary way and understanding the trade-offs that are made and the implications of each of our policy decisions in a really holistic way, which is why I think it's such a special organization.
Yeah, sounds like a think and do tank.
Totally, it's exactly right.
Well, thank you, Teresa, for paloozing, and it's been a pleasure going back and forth and finding out all these intersections. And we certainly hope to continue doing more of it. I mean, just there is, you know, the thing is, it really does seem like the world, you know, there seems to be, I think, an emerging consensus in terms of, you know, so many things. I mean, you know, I mean, Caltrain was on the brink, for instance, you know, really having its own existential moment. And I think we're past that. I think it's a larger aspect where all this stuff is interrelated, and, you know, even our water systems are interrelated, and how do things get to the bay, and what nature-based solutions are there that we can employ? So,
one more thing, Dennis, because to your point, the California Water Commission, in our role as a public forum on water issues, we're actually going to be holding 4 virtual regional meetings coming up this month and next month to assess a potential state role in financing conveyance projects that could help meet the needs of our changing climate. So we really like to get broad participation. I would encourage folks to go to cwc.ca.gov for the schedule. It'd be great to see folks there.